Poison in the Colony, Jamestown, 1622, Chapter 13. They name her Catherine. She is red-faced and scrawny, but my mother assures me she will be just as pretty as Alice and I are when she gets bigger. Ah, 3 lovely daughters, and plenty of time for a son, my father says when he sees her. That night I settled into bed with an iron horseshoe tucked under Alice's pillow. Catherine is in bed with our parents, the iron tongs forming a V above her head. There will be no babies stolen from this house tonight. I lie awake thinking about the children who were stolen, rounded up for London, and sent here against their will. There is talk of them becoming indentured servants, of them receiving their freedom and land when their 7 years of service are over. Those that survive, anyway. But I have seen how it goes with indentured servants. They somehow always end up in debt to their masters, and so freedom and land never come. My own mum was lucky that her mistress and master gave her permission to marry, and then when her mistress died, Mum was free to be a wife and mother without having to serve anyone. I remember playing handy-dandy with Alice, and I think how those children got the empty hand, and I, with my mother and father, and warm cottage, food to eat, and healthy sisters, have got the prize. As I drift off to sleep, I hear my own voice saying, "You'll get the prize sometimes and get the empty hand sometimes, but it's supposed to be fun every time." Elections are held. 2 men from each of the 7 plantations and the 4 towns, including Jamestown, are elected burgesses to represent the colonists. There are 22 burgesses in all. Among the voters are the Polish craftsmen, and they are back at work making pitch, tar, and potash to be sent to English. The governor agreed to give them the right to vote, but on one condition. They must take on English apprentices and teach their craft to new young men. As soon as Bermuda hears this, he starts making a pest of himself with the Polish craftsmen. He insists that since the Polish workers were first sent here to make glass, when the glass house starts up again, they will be the ones making the glass. His plan is to be in the middle of all that and go right from making pitch and tar to blowing glass. I tell him he's dreaming, but he doesn't listen. The Polish men tell him he's too young to be an apprentice, that he'll burn his arm off in the tar pits, but he doesn't listen to them either. If the Poles appreciate persistence, Bermuda will soon have his place as an apprentice. If they do not appreciate persistence, Bermuda will soon be banished from their sight. In the meantime, his mother constantly complains that he's never around to do his chores, and I complain that he never goes fishing with me anymore. The days grow long and hot. Mosquitoes buzz around my head whenever I weed the garden or sit grinding corn. More and more people fall ill with the summer flux, and Bermuda is dragged away from the tar pits to help dig graves. In the midst of it all, baby Catherine grows fat on my mother's milk and even starts to look a little bit prettier. On Friday, July 30, the General Assembly has its first official meeting in the church in Jamestown. In attendance are the 22 elected burgesses, the governor and his 6-member council, Reverend Buck, and the colony's secretary, John Porey. When Samuel leaves for the tobacco fields in the morning, he tells me to go listen to the meeting from outside the church windows. He says it's an important day and I should witness it. Reverend Buck opens with a prayer and the meeting begins. The most interesting part is when a case is brought against John Martin, who is accused of stealing corn from the Indians. Governor Yeardley stresses how important it is for all colonists to treat the Indians with respect and kindness in order to keep the peace we now have. He says that absolutely no robberies will be tolerated. I am very happy to hear the governor say this. If anyone keeps the peace, when surely the dreaded third battle from the prophecy will never come to pass. The General Assembly has to meet all week, but one after another, the men fall ill with the summer flux. One of the Burgesses dies, and so the meeting is cut short, but not before the Assembly makes many important decisions. They lay out the specific about how the 100-acre plots will be assigned to the ancients. They enact laws against drunkenness, idleness, and gambling. I also hear them talking about the colony's first tax, which is to be paid to them. When I tell Daw about the tax, Alice wants to know what tax is. Those men are making laws for us, Daw says, and so we will all pay them for doing that. Why are they making the poor servants pay the same as the rich landowners? I ask him. Daw doesn't look up from his chair as he is repairing. I suppose we're paying them to make laws, not to be fair, he says. The General Assembly adjourns on August 4th. The tax is collected. 1 pound of the best tobacco from every man and every servant in the colony, paid to the Assembly member for, as one hot, sweaty field worker says, having sat in the cool of the church and talked for 5 days. On Sunday afternoon after church services, my mother sends me to go fishing. Bermuda is catching up on a week's worth of chores for his mother, and so I am going alone. With my worms in a bucket and my fishing stick over my shoulder, I walk through the fort toward the gates. Sunday is the day for visiting and trading, and there are many natives in the fort and their baskets of bread, meat, and dried berries for trade. Samuel stands in a circle with Chopuk, a young Indian man who lives in Jamestown, and 2 visiting native men. The 4 of them are speaking Algonquian. When Samuel sees me, he calls me over. "Bring us back some trout. Can't you see we're starving at the soldiers' barracks?" he says. The other men laugh. They obviously understand enough English to get Samuel's humor. I shake my head. Mom will want me to bring anything I catch. Are you too lazy to do your own fishing? Samuel pretends to nearly faint. Mochi woyog tau noru kawere mecher. I am very hungry. What shall I eat? Now he is clowning for his friends, and I don't like not knowing what he's saying. I decide to show off one of the Algonquian words I do know. I'm not giving you any of my nogmas. Go catch your own nogmas. Samuel laughs, grabs me, and tickles me. Samuel, let me go. I struggle to free myself from his grasp, but he holds on tight. Neto Pew, he asks. Yes, we're still friends, I say. Just let me go fishing before my mother decides I've got other chores to do. The next moment I look up and gasp. The creature's white wings shine bright in the sun. The feathers on the body lift in the breeze, and his dark face is set with determination. The birdman has just walked through the gates into the fort.